Hello everyone, this is Jotto, and welcome to some spoilers. Now, it is card reveal season again for Spellweaver right now. There's been a few cards already spoiled. In fact, the theme has been multicolor cards this time around. So we've seen some Wisdom Dominion hybrid support, we've seen some Order Dominion, and Rage Nature. So far. If you want to go check out the previous spoilers, go find them in the Discord announcements section. I'll put the link to Discord in the description as usual. But I have been given not one, not two, but three cards to spoil, which I am very much looking forward to. So, without ado, let's get into it. We're going to start with Demonic Legions. Now, Demonic Legions is a 1 mana Rage Corruption, so 2 levels, spell at uncommon rarity, very valid for draft. Demonic Legions deals 1 damage to you for each demonic imp you control, and this is the demonic imp, it is a specific token. Then summon a demonic imp onto the field with that many might emblems on it. You may pay 2 mana to repeat this process. Now, worth note, Demonic Imp does not have a rarity symbol, which means it's not a card. You can't play Demonic Imps in your deck. It's not like other tokens like Pegasus and things like that. You can't play them in your deck, they aren't in the game, there's no rarity symbol. It's not impossible that they'll be added in, but it's very, very unlikely, and given the design of the card, I highly doubt it. Love the flavor text on this one, by the way, one more won't kill me. So essentially, the idea behind this is you pay 1 mana, you get an imp. For free. No life. 1 mana, 2 levels, 1/1/2 speed. Not a great conversion rate there, but on curve, it's not catastrophic if you're using the card for something else. However, you can pay 2 mana to repeat the process. So, if you pay 3 mana, the first one activates, you get a 1/1/2 speed, no life loss, because the damage happens first. Damage is just to avoid Mastery of Ancients problems, from what I can tell. Second time, you take 1 damage, because you already have an imp. Then you get a 1/1/2 speed with a Might Emblem, so a 2/2. So you now have 3/3, 2 speed and stats over 2 bodies for 3 mana, 2 levels. That's reasonable. Again, like the first activation, a bit below on power level. But you can repeat it again. 5 mana. You get a 3/3 with 2 speeds. So you've now got a 3/3, a 2/2, and a 1/1. That's 6/6 in stats for 5 mana, 2 levels over 3 bodies. That's actually pretty good. And if you're in the late game, and this is where I think it really shines, for 7 mana, you get an extra 4/4. That's 10/10 in stats. 4 bodies. That's amazing. Now, you do lose 6 life to do that. You lose 3 for the final one, and then 2, and then 1. However, if you're an aggro deck trying to finish someone off, you can do that. And you can use them on curve as well. They're not terrible. A 2/2 and a 1/1 is actually, it's not great, but it's actually okay if you're running it with certain synergies. Now, keep in mind, it won't work with things like Flesh Sculptor, but it will work with stuff like Charles. If you're using the, well, Shrine to kind of mess around with your levels a little bit. So, that's actually a reasonable synergy. The other thing about this is it offers synergy for this archetype specifically, and low-level ones, so not a control deck. You could feasibly play Demonic Legions in control. The problem is taking a lot of damage early prevents you from using this card late, and I think its real sort of shining moments come at 5 mana, 7 mana, and even 9 mana in the ultra late game. Like, it actually gives Rage Corruption, which, keep in mind, don't have a lot of card advantage outside of Burning Rage. So it actually keeps them able to work in top deck wars, which I actually really like, because remember, aside from weird stuff with leveling, they don't really have access to other value engines like tombs. So this offers them a late game thing. It's also very similar to Pegasus Regiment. Now, comparing it to Pegasus Regiment is an interesting one. You get less bodies, but overall you get more stats. You lose life. Like, I would say that, but they don't have flying. I would say Legions is a better card than Pegasus Regiment, but Pegasus Regiment isn't a two-color card. And that's an important distinction. Also, Pegasus Regiment has been good enough to see periodic play, but not constant play. I actually really like Pegasus Regiment, and also the other thing about Peg Reg is it has Deogen to work with. Because it's in order, it means you can use Deogen to get it back, whereas feasibly getting Demon Legions back with Deogen, that's not happening. That's a four-color deck. That's spicy if you get that working, especially considering you need a lot of mana to get all this to work, and one of your four colors is not Dominion, so you're not ramping. So that should be interesting. In fact, you don't have Wisdom either. Yeah, neither of the ramp colors. That's gonna be really hard. So yes, but I actually really like this card. I think it's gonna get very scary in the late game, and I think we'll see a reasonable amount of play. Also, this is interesting. For draft, I would say that this is a rage card that's very powerful in draft that doesn't work very well with Burke. Because the more you use Burke, the more damage you take, and the more damage you take, the less powerful your legions are. So we've actually got a rage card that's amazing in draft that doesn't encourage Burke, which I love. Now, moving on from the demonic legions, we have a shrine. We have Temple of the Kraken. It is a rare resource shrine. When you play it, you can get either a wisdom level, a dominion level, or 1 mana, but not a card. So the idea is you can go one of 2 colors, and then if you have to go up mana, you can, but you don't get a card. However, when you play a resource shrine, it goes into play. It is a resource for you to use. And then you can sacrifice Temple of the Kraken, choose one, convert a dominion level to a wisdom or a wisdom to a dominion. This is very common on these resource shrines. I think they all do this now. They're all 2-color shrines. And it allows for really interesting color switching. Now, if you guys remember my deck tech on Hermelian Green a couple of weeks ago, that entire archetype pretty much only works because of color switching, because the hero power requires double of one color. So that shows you just how important those color switching can be. So don't underestimate that. It's incredibly worth it. When resource shrines came out originally, a lot of people were saying that they were quite weak because the secondary effects, the ones you get in addition, weren't that good. But I think a lot of people were sleeping on just the sheer amount of consistency you get from all that color switching. So just on color switching alone, it would see play. Just so we're clear, I think every single resource shrine has seen play. I think the one that's seen the least play is probably Godless Shrine. Well, it has the weakest effect, but it also hasn't been... Like, there haven't been that many Order Corruption decks that would use it. But even then, I've seen Godless Shrine in play, because the color switching is super important, and it also helps a lot with your early levels. Now, what is its effect? The secondary effect, if you have one of each of the 2 levels on it, so you need 2 levels, 1 Dominion, 1 Wisdom, pay 5 mana, that's the most expensive resource shrine thing, and you can invoke it. You invoke it and exhaust it, so you can't just swift attack with it, basically. That's what that's about. Destroy all other resources you control, and put that many Might Emblems on Temple. This is interesting. So basically, it's a 2/3, 2-speed normally. Which, you know what, in the late game, actually may come up. When you're using it for its color fixing anyway, you're not going to complain when you've got a 5 mana 2/3 late game. It's not great, but it's an extra bit of, well, card advantage, essentially. However, if you have 2 temples, it becomes a 5 mana 3/4. And keep in mind, you've used them for levels already. If you're playing a multicolor 4-level control deck, you might have other resources, and you can destroy all of those and put them on our big Kraken. Now, it is just a big creature. It can't attack immediately, can't block immediately, which is actually a bit of an annoying thing to deal with. But it has some quirks. It is a no-level, no-mana creature. As in, not 0 mana, 0 levels. It doesn't have them as statistics, which leads to some weird interactions. Primarily, it's completely immune to things like Harpy and Bezarok, which are the interesting ones. It's immune to those, it's immune to Underworld Scourge. Basically, anything that refers to Landslide, anything that refers to mana or levels doesn't affect it. Because it doesn't have them. They're not even things on the card, which I actually think makes this a little harder to deal with than you'd first expect in the matchups where you want it as a 2/3. Things like Reanimator, the slower games. But it will help a lot with color fixing, and we're seeing some more support for Wisdom Dominion, which means that you're going to want that color fixing. So, good card. Speaking of Wisdom Dominion, final card we're doing today, Selena, Princess of the Deep. One of my favorite cards of the set so far. 3 mana, 3 levels, Wisdom, Dominion, and 1 generic. 3/4, 3 speed, large stats, by the way, just saying that, large stats. It's a legendary, it's an epic. Selena's powers cost 0 mana in the turn it enters the field. What is its power, though? 3 mana, hex up to 3 enemy creatures until the start of your next turn. Use this power only during your turn and only once each turn. Hexed enemy creatures have -1/-1. Now, for those keeping up with spoilers, you'll remember Hex from Queen of the Jellyfish. Now, Queen of the Jellyfish, being a very nice card in and of itself, has a similar ability. Enters play, Hex something, Hex creatures have 1 speed. Now, Hex doesn't do anything on its own. It's a condition added to something, but hexes only do things when you have a mage in play with something that refers to it. However, it means they all work together, and that's the absolute peak thing. So, a Selena on its own will give 3 things -1, -1 until the start of your next turn, provided she stays in play. But if you have Queen of the Jellyfish as well, they now have 1 speed. And that is the just wonderful synergy. I also love it from a flavor perspective, the idea of Wisdom and Dominion. What's their common ground? Magic that curses people. I really, really like it in terms of flavor-wise there. Now, Queen of the Jellyfish is actually a good card on its own. Defensive early drop, nice sort of weird CFC reverse effect. But Selena is amazing. So, first things first, the stats. 3/4, 3 speed. Compare that to things like Phoenix. Now, Phoenix has a very powerful effect, so it makes sense, it comes back. If you compare it to other top tier 3-level cards, Elder, 4/4, 2 speed. That compares favorably, actually. I'd say 1 attack is worth less than a speed. Especially 2 to 3 speed is a massive jump. 1 to 2 is a reasonable one. 2 to 3 is huge. I mean, 3 to 4 is the crazy one. But yeah, as you get higher in speed, they matter more. So 3 speed's pretty big. That effect, though. Now, the effect... First off, you play it, you can kill things with it. This will happen. There are lots of 1 HP creatures, or if you have some creatures and they have some creatures, you play Selena, you break the board wide open and you just attack and eat all their dudes. So it helps a lot with creature combat in that way. But it's also a good defensive option, because a lot of cards in this game are 2/3s. What happens to a 2/3? It becomes a 1/2. 1/2s are not very threatening. A 2/3, it's quite literally half their damage. So a 2/3 gets massively weakened by this. In fact, weakness emblems on 2/3s result in similar value, and that's the kind of thing. Now, the other thing is you can repeat this every turn if you want to, but I'm just going to look at that first hit. Probably remove some stuff. If you're against an aggressive deck, if you're against a mid-range deck, this is a board breaker. But if you're against an aggressive deck, you might kill a creature and weaken 2 of them. Thing is, if they actually want to attack, they have to kill the Selena, because it's not just a 3/4, which is nice in terms of stats, but it also makes their board weaker. So they have to kill the Selena. And if they don't, their board is going to be weak enough that you can't really attack. So it's an amazing card for that. It really, really is an amazing card. Now, 3 mana, 3 levels, it does need to have a big impact when you're in this kind of mid-rangey setup. But I'm really liking how this shapes up, and I think that between this and Queen, we're going to see a slightly slower creature-based sort of Wisdom Dominion mid-range deck, which, for those that have been memeing on me in terms of mid-range, will know I really like. It also works nicely with things like Coronis, generating extra value, extra creatures, things like that. Works with Temple of the Kraken nicely because, again, you're going to need that color fixing. But it's also a nice extra value push later on. So I'm really, really liking how the Wisdom Dominion card is shaping up. And, well, maybe you'll see Aaron all around again. I mean, he fits in between these. 3 mana, 2 levels, but we'll have to see. Love the curse mechanic, and absolutely love Selena, my favorite card so far of the spoiler season. So, that's my 3 cards for the, well, spoiler season for June. Really looking forward to this. Some of the other cards we've had so far have been really, really cool, and looking forward to how this impacts things. There will also be a balance patch at the same time as these cards are released, so it's going to be deck building time. It's going to be a lot of deck building, a lot of experimentation. I'm really looking forward to it. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you like the content, please subscribe. If you have any feedback, want to ask me any questions, put it in the comment section below, or just ask me on Discord. I'm pretty much always on Discord. Might take me a little while to check messages occasionally, but I'm always on Discord, so you can always get through to me if you post on there. If you want to see the rest of the spoilers, aside from the ones that I've had in this video, again, on Discord in the announcements section, scroll up a bit, you'll see all of them. They're also on the Spellweaver Facebook page. But anyway, as now, it's been Jotto, signing off.